So we've got lots of cool brands. We are social, Adidas. I could have talked about Beats by Dre or even Red Bull, but I'm actually going to talk to you about housing, which is really exciting. But just a bit of context around Barratt and the house building market is actually that's completely in the wrong place. But anyway, don't worry about that. 24 billion was spent on new houses in the UK last year. And compare that to another of our clients, which is Jaguar, and only 9 billion kind of worldwide for them. So it's a massive market, and one that they have to protect. And everything that I'm going to talk about, although I think you've probably heard most of it already, to be honest, is kind of being pulled together by doing crisis management for these people. Interestingly, Tesco, we had nothing to do with the horse meat crisis, unfortunately, otherwise we would have been ready for it, would have been able to deal with it. But kind of, you guys will remember all the way back as far as Skype and some of the crises that they had to deal with is pretty telling. Adidas and Heineken, two of the most kind of attacked brands on the planet. I think maybe only someone like Nestle has had it worse than them. So all of the things I'm going to talk about is kind of experience that has been hard won. So we think about how many people have bought a house? All the rich people on the front row, the VPs of Europe and so on. But it's kind of odd. I mean, I don't know if you can share this experience, but a lot of people will go and buy a house after seeing it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times is kind of unlikely. And these things cost, what's a cheap house in London? $500,000 or something like that now. The consideration time is very, very short. And actually people probably spend more time choosing which pizza they're going to get than which house. And certainly with a car, there'll be a huge kind of lead up time to actually purchasing that car. But with a house, you go, should we go out to Foxtons at the weekend and stick our head around the door and see if there's anything we like? And people will buy houses on that basis. So it's absolutely vital that in that time that housing companies aren't doing anything stupid, that they're not getting any negative press, that there isn't a social media crisis, because even the slightest thing can put you off buying anything. And if it's a house, that's a huge amount of money that's being missed out on, and people can be really easily scared. So even more so than pizza, more so the other case studies we'll hear later on, housing companies have to be trustworthy and have to be honest and have to be transparent. But, things go wrong. Think about how complex a house is. I mean, I didn't think I'd be on stage comparing houses to pizza as much as I am, but I'm doing it. But, there's only so much that can go wrong with a pizza. Come on, people, really. But with a house, there's an infinite number of things that could be wrong, the wrong shape, the wrong fit, so on and so forth. So we need to be ready for that. So, and it's the most important thing, and I think everyone on the panel will agree, that it's how you act once the crisis has happened that really makes most of the difference. So what we've done is set Barratt up to deal with any situation. We've set them up to deal with any crisis. And I think this case study will be different because this case study is very much kind of future focused. It's how we have prepared Barratt for any eventuality. There's so many things I want to do, and I'm kind of short on time, and I don't really want to kind of labour it too much, but this just, I'll just pick out a few things, like a really fascinating one is PPC and how people are using that in crisis management. Skype, for example, when they did a deal with the Tom network in China, they kind of came to us and said, look, at some point this could be a bit of an issue, and with China and privacy and so on, it was, and there was this big kind of flare up. So we had this blog post already written by the CEO to counter the negative criticism. But what we also did was bought paid search media terms. So when anyone typed in Skype or Tom China, whatever combination, the first thing that came up was the paid search driving to this blog post. And the other thing we did for that was have the monitoring set up. So depending on the client, we use a different bit of listening software. So I think we use Sysmos for Skype. So every time we saw a mention of the issue surrounding Skype, we knew about it first. And more often than not, on all the influential blogs and forums, the first link under any article, under any blog post, was actually the link back to the official line on the Skype blog. So within 24 hours, we were able to turn off that paid media. But it's just thinking ahead. And as clever as I'm going to try and make myself sound today, and everyone else will, a lot of this is just common sense. What could go wrong? And if it does, what we're going to do about it. So another thing we set up was kind of example things that could go wrong. So it's Sunday, a boiler has exploded and killed a customer. There are hundreds of tweets, questions pouring in. The Daily Mail has been alerted with a story likely to emerge. So what are we going to do? Fucking hell. Right, let's work out exactly what's going to happen, and then kind of jumping back to this, you've got all the key players at the brand, at the agency, have a clear escalation process in place, so it doesn't matter if someone's on holiday. Classic mistake, someone goes on holiday and takes the passwords with them. So right, you've got a crisis on your hands, you've spotted it 30 seconds after it happened, right, let's oh shit, we haven't got the passwords. So if you take anything away from this presentation, please take that. So yeah, draft statements, have ways of getting sign off much faster. Have FAQs. I mean, it's a kind of regular thing where a lot of people will be saying the same thing, and you'll just kind of create far too much noise if you try and answer everything. But where there's a cluster of conversation, where there's a lot of similar questions being asked, you can all point them towards those FAQs if you have them kind of sorted out. I mean, it's just simple things like alert the senior stakeholders and turn off scheduled messaging. Now, I don't know, has anyone seen this? So this is Qantas Airlines. What they did, they had this campaign called hashtag Qantas Luxury. So they had these like automated tweets to tell us, what is your dream luxury in-flight experience? Be creative. Answers must include Qantas Luxury. So this is going on while all these people are grounded because the flights have just all been cancelled. So everyone's just tweeting back going, my dream luxury trip would be like being on the flight, for example. Because what they hadn't done is turned off the automatic tweets that were going out. And similarly on Facebook, some brands will obviously set Facebook so you can't comment, and so when there's a crisis happening and people feel they can't comment, they can't interact with you, then you're actually taking away their right of free speech, and that in turn will kind of create even more of a problem. So it's just thinking ahead, what is going to go wrong and how can we get around it? Here's another scenario. In 2 days there'll be a newsletter program which Barrett wrongly will be featuring heavily in reference to new build equity scams. But what are we going to do about it? But this is going to happen, so prepare all the stakeholders and community managers and get them to understand the discussion, have them prepped for the kind of things that are going to come up, immediately field questions and prepare a statement. So I guess I'm kind of fortunate this case study, we've never had to try this. We've simulated it, obviously that went well, there was learnings from that, but we haven't actually had to deal with anything yet, but we're confident this is watertight. We're confident because of the experience working on crisis management for Eurostar. Had a total disaster a few years ago. We won an award for that. We've been through it with Heineken. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the Heineken dogs issue. So Heineken would send out all these kind of posters and POS stuff for in bars, huge Heineken posters, you've seen them a million times. And they sent some, I think it was somewhere in Eastern Europe, but then one night after the football, they had like a dog fight in the pub, and someone took a photograph of it, and it looked like these dogs fighting was sponsored by Heineken. Which of course it wasn't, and this was in 2006, and they dealt with it at the time. They dealt with it. So there's nothing to do with us explaining why the posters were there, but it still keeps on coming back. It's all a kind of strong meme in its own right. And so now what they do is actually have that photo on their Facebook page as one of the main tabs at the top. So they're saying, look, we know this is here, we're drawing you directly to it. So it's working with these awful situations, have made dealing with these situations and getting Barrett ready a relatively painless task. And so actually, to put this in context, last September, one of their competitors, Taylor Wimpey, were on a program Watchdog, and lots of people saw it, and there was all this kind of stuff like rats in the cavities, unfinished communal areas. It was a real kind of shocker, and a ton of bad tweets out there. And it was, it was a real situation for them. And in fairness, they did deal with it. But I'm not going to go into that. It's nothing to do with this. But it just goes to show that how easily that could kick off such a kind of large industry like the housing industry. Tons of blogs as well. So I'm happy to take questions on any of those brands and that case study in particular. Thank you very much.